It's wild to see just how differently rational and irrational lines behave. Now, your slope might be really close, but how it behaves going around the donut is going to depend on whether it's rational or irrational. One's going to almost cover the whole donut, and the other one's just going to make one little sort of line across it. And if we had two slopes that were wildly far apart, as long as they were both rational, they're both going to have just a finite number of sort of swirls around the donut. Or conversely, even if they were miles apart, if they were both irrational, then they both kind of almost look like they fill up the whole donut. It's kind of crazy. If your students have seen any chemistry before, it's kind of a fun one to sort of give them an analogy. So in the periodic table, two elements that are side by side have a very close number of neutrons, protons, and electrons, but they usually behave quite differently versus elements that are in the same column, which actually end up behaving more similarly. This is kind of hand-wavy, but it is sort of a similar thing. We've sort of broken up all of our numbers into either rationals or irrationals, and they behave quite differently. Even though they might be really close to each other in actual size, sort of like square root of 2 and 1.41. 1.41 is rational, right? 141 over 100. Square root of 2, irrational, but also 1.41 blah, 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 blah. So they're kind of similar in size, but their behavior as we graph a line that has that slope around a torus, it looks radically different. Versus pi, for instance, which is going to behave much more like root 2 in the sense that it's almost going to fill up that donut as well. Now, just because it's beautiful and subtle, I'm going to give you a quick explanation of the mathematics behind this. So, say we have a point here, xy, that we're trying to hit. Well, and we've got our slope, our line that has some crazy slope. Well, whatever that crazy slope is, let's say it's like this, it's going to come up and it's going to hit at some point, right? We have an x coordinate. If we put that x coordinate into that slope, we hit it. And then if we put x plus 1 into that, we're going to hit somewhere else. And we're going to keep hitting this vertical line. Every time we go from the left to the right frame, we're going to hit this vertical line once. And we're going to hit it in different spots, because remember, we never come back with an irrational slope. But if we keep hitting it in different spots, let's say we go past 5 times. 2 of those intersections with this line must be within 1/5 of each other. But if 2 of them are within 1/5, we can keep doing another 5 lot, and we're going to end up with another one that's 1/5 above that, and another one that's less than 1/5 above that, and so on and so forth. And sooner or later, we have to bracket our xy by 2 crossings. And so one of those 2 points that crossed must actually be within 1/5 of xy. And there was nothing special about 1/5. We could do it 1,000th. And if we have if we want to get within 1,000th of xy, and we let this line go across 1,000 times, then 2 of those crossings have to be within 1,000th of each other. But then if we go through another 1,000 times, we're going to get a crossing that's within 1,000th just above those, and then again 1,000th just above those. And if we keep creeping up, sooner or later we're going to bracket our xy. And so now we can guarantee that we've got to get within 1,000th of our point xy, somehow or other. Now we don't know where, but we do know that our irrationally sloped line will have to get arbitrarily close to any point in the square without actually necessarily hitting any specific point. Kind of crazy, huh? We can get as close as we want to any point in the square, but there are lots of points that we actually for certain know that we will never hit. Whoa, my mind's melting. Your students' minds are probably going to melt too, but there's a lot going on here and it's good to wrestle with. Sometimes it's fun to have brain coming out your ears.